Shatabhisha is the enigmatic realm of the 100 healers, a celestial station where the deepest wounds are addressed not with gentle remedies, but with surgical truth and the power of the void. It is the domain of the midnight sun, where profound isolation acts as the ultimate crucible for cosmic transformation. Listen to the quiet in here, There's just the shifting of these old books on the heavy wooden table, the soft clink of this porcelain cup against the saucer. The grounding scent of the herbal tea is steeping. It is entirely timeless in this room. Come, sit down.
Thank you. It really is the perfect atmosphere for this.
It is, yeah. So we have a fascinating mission for this deep dive today. We're going to map the heavenly layer of Shatabhisha. We need to decode its core identity, unpack the really intense astronomical architecture behind it, and explore the mythology of the Danish god Varuna.
Right, which is quite a profound story.
Yeah, totally. And ultimately, we want to understand its unique power to heal through crisis.
It is a profound space to enter, for sure. When we examine the source material, we are stepping into a cosmic territory that operates on, well, entirely different rules than what we are used to.
Different how, exactly?
Well, Shatabhisha doesn't deal in the superficial, It doesn't do cosmetic fixes. It deals in the absolute, the hidden, and the structurally profound. It basically asks what happens when the systems we rely on completely break down.
Okay, let's start by unpacking the name itself, because the literal translation is incredibly layered.
Yeah.
And it gives us our first major clue. Most basic translations will give us 100 healers, right? Or 100 physicians or 100 cures.
Yes, exactly.
And that sounds very clinical.
Yeah.
But the sources point out that the Sanskrit root here is bish. And bish means to apply, as in to apply an ointment, or like more abstractly, to apply attention.
Right.
And that shifts the meaning beautifully, I think. It expands the translation to mean 100 watchers and even 100 lovers.
That etymological shift is just crucial for understanding what kind of medicine we are actually talking about here. It tells us that healing, in the context of Shatabhisha, isn't just about administering a potion, or taking a pill. It is about the application of absolute, unwavering consciousness.
Like total presence.
Yeah. Think about what it means to watch something with 100 eyes, or to apply your attention to a wound or a systemic flaw with the intensity of 100 lovers. That level of hyper-focused attention, that is the medicine.
Wow. Okay.
And that concept brings us directly to a primary symbol of this nakshatra, which is the empty circle.
An empty circle. So literally just a geometric zero.
Precisely a zero. It represents the void, the realm of Maya or illusion, and the 0 point. But we really shouldn't mistake this emptiness for just mere nothingness.
Right, it's not just a blank space.
No, in esoteric terms, this empty circle acts as a containment field. It is a circumferential fence that separates the inner being from the outer chaos of the world.
Okay, I see.
It provides the sacred, isolated space required for deep spiritual and psychological regeneration. Although, depending on the state of the person inside it, it can also act as an isolating fence that holds an individual captive within their own boundaries.
That immediately makes me think of a sensory deprivation tank.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right, because if you have ever stepped into one, or even just imagine stepping into one, the water is exactly skin temperature, it is pitch black, and it is completely silent. It appears to be a space of absolute nothing.
Yeah.
But it's exactly that absolute isolation that forces you to confront everything hidden inside yourself. When the external noise is cut off, your internal noise becomes, well, deafening.
Exactly.
The tank strips away all the outside illusions, the Maya, so that you have absolutely no choice but to face the raw, unedited truth of your own consciousness.
That is a perfect analogy. The sensory deprivation tank is the empty circle. It forces you to sit with the void, and human beings are generally terrified of the void.
Oh, definitely. We hate it.
We constantly fill our circles with noise, distractions, tasks. Shatabhisha removes all of that. It enforces the isolation so that the 100 watchers can finally see what is actually broken inside the system.
But I'm kind of hung up on the secondary symbol the sources give us for Shatabhisha. Because alongside the empty circle, we have the lasso, or the pasha.
Oh, the lasso.
And the texts say this lasso is used to capture hypocrites and unmask deception with fierce truth-seeking. How does a passive space of complete nothingness and isolation connect to a highly aggressive, proactive weapon like a lasso?
It is a brilliant paradox, really, and it goes right to the heart of how this energy functions. The void is actually what sharpens the vision.
Okay.
When you are detached from the noise of the external world, when you sit securely within that empty circle, you can see the structural flaws in reality with total unobstructed clarity. You aren't distracted by the theater of everyday life.
Because you are standing outside of the illusion.
Exactly. And the lasso is simply the mechanism of accountability that follows that clarity. Because you are watching with the intensity of those 100 watchers, you are uniquely equipped to see the lie.
I get it.
You see the hypocrisy that everyone else is too distracted to notice. And from that place of stillness, you throw the lasso. You arrest the fraudulent and the deceptive.
Wow.
The void provides the absolute clarity, and the lasso is the swift, uncompromising action taken when cosmic truth is violated.
So the isolation is actually a tactical advantage.
Very much so.
It allows you to see the trap before you spring it. You sit in the dark, you watch the patterns, and the moment a hypocrisy reveals itself, you deploy the lasso.
Yes.
That requires a terrifying level of discipline and timing. Which makes me wonder about the actual environment where this is taking place. Where exactly is this happening in the astrological sky, and what forces are building this intense, unyielding circle?
Well, Shatabhisha is located entirely within the air sign of Aquarius, specifically spanning from 6 degrees and 40 minutes to exactly 20 degrees in Kumbh. And the architecture of this space is governed by a highly complex, almost contradictory synergy of planetary forces. The rulers here are Saturn and Rahu.
Right, Saturn is the ruler of the sign, and Rahu is the ruler of the specific star.
Yes, and the contrast between those two is just staggering.
Total opposites.
Right. The sign lord is Saturn. Saturn brings cold discipline, rigid boundaries, the heavy weight of karma, and a detached, persistent, almost clinical perspective. Saturn wants order, structure, and consequences.
And a Rahu.
The nakshatra itself is ruled by Rahu, the north lunar node. Rahu represents the absolute pinnacle of unconventional search. It is the piercing of veils, the breaking of taboos, and a volatile, explosive curiosity that wants to consume everything.
So to put that into physical perspective for you sitting here with us, it's like building a highly structured, hyper-pressurized laboratory. That's the Saturn influence, right?
Yeah.
Thick lead walls, absolute sterile protocols, unbreakable glass. And that laboratory is specifically designed to conduct explosive, radical, highly unstable experiments, which is Rahu.
Yes, that's it, exactly.
You have this relentless hunger to break the rules and tear down the illusions, but it is completely contained by the most disciplined, restrictive force in the zodiac.
That is the exact chemistry happening here. It is controlled chaos. And the source texts emphasize this intense friction when they classify the star's qualities. It holds a tamasic primary energy.
And usually tamasic implies darkness, inertia, or ignorance, right?
Conventionally, yes. Tamasic energy is heavy. It is associated with dissolution and the breakdown of structures. But we really have to look at the other classifications. Its nature is chara, meaning movable or changeable.
So it's a moving darkness.
Precisely. Think about how strange that is. It is not a stagnant swamp of ignorance. It is a swirling black hole. It is a dynamic, fluid force that actively deconstructs whatever it touches.
Unbelievable.
And to top it off, its temperament is rakshasa, which translates to demonic or fierce. So when you combine these elements, tamasic, chara, rakshasa, you aren't looking at a peaceful meditation retreat. You are looking at an uncompromising, ruthless, energetic signature that breaks down false structures without caring at all about your feelings.
Wait, if this environment is a volatile mix of Saturn's rigid pressure and Rahu's explosive rule-breaking, and it operates like a swirling black hole of deconstruction,
Yeah.
who is actually insane enough to manage that laboratory? Obviously, you can't just leave that kind of volatile, truth-seeking machinery unmonitored. It would tear itself apart.
And that question leads us to one of the most complex deities in the entire Vedic pantheon. The master architect overseeing this chaotic laboratory, the ruling deity of Shatabhisha, is Varuna,
The Lord of the Cosmic Waters.
the lord of the vast cosmic waters, the deep night sky, and most importantly, the guardian of Reka.
Let's define Rita, because it's not just a set of legal rules, is it?
No, not at all. Rada is the absolute cosmic and moral law. It is the structural integrity of the universe. It is the reason the sun rises, the rivers flow, and karma balances out. It is the underlying truth of reality. And Varuna is the enforcer of this truth. But Varuna is not a conventional golden god of light and sunshine.
He's not Apollo.
Right, he is an asura, which categorizes him as a dark divinity. He is known esoterically as the midnight sun, meaning he rules the sun when it is at its lowest, darkest, most hidden point in the sky.
The sun shining on our subconscious.
Exactly. And the texts say he possesses 1,000 eyes, which are literally the stars in the night sky. He uses these 1,000 eyes to witness all hidden deeds.
That's intense.
Nothing escapes Varuna's gaze. If you commit a crime in the dead of night, in complete isolation, Varuna sees it. He is the ultimate manifestation of those 100 watchers we talked about earlier.
He sounds terrifying, honestly, just sitting in the dark sky, an absolute judge, watching every single flaw and deploying that cosmic lasso whenever someone breaks the structural integrity of the universe.
He is formidable.
But his story is not just about sitting on a high throne passing judgment, right? There is a massive central myth here regarding a catastrophic failure on his part.
Yes, the myth of Ritra. And this is vital to understanding Shatabhisha. Once, Varuna was the supreme ruler of the cosmos, the absolute unquestioned judge. But a massive crisis occurred.
What happened?
The drought dragon Vritra, who was also an asura, swallowed the celestial rivers. He withheld all the waters of the earth, causing a devastating cosmic drought. Everything was dying.
Wow.
The structural integrity of the universe, Rita, was collapsing. And Varuna, the guardian of natural law, the one who was supposed to throw the lasso and stop this, hesitated.
He froze.
Yeah.
Why did the ultimate judge hesitate to stop a dragon from destroying the world?
Because of misplaced loyalty. He felt a sympathy, a partiality toward Vritra because they were fellow Asuras. They were of the same kind.
Oh, I see.
Varuna allowed his personal feelings and his tribal loyalty to override his duty to the cosmic law.
I have to ask, isn't it, a little bit hypocritical that the strict judge of absolute moral law failed his fundamental duty because of favoritism? He is supposed to be the guy who punishes hypocrites.
It is the ultimate hypocrisy, and the universe does not tolerate a corrupted judge. Because of this failure to uphold his duty and protect the cosmic rivers, Indra, the god of storms and lightning, had to step in.
Okay.
Indra violently defeated the dragon Vritra, released the waters, and essentially usurped Varuna's throne. Varuna was stripped of his high position in the heavens. He was banished, cast down into the deep sea, into the absolute bottom of the underworld.
So the judge gets hit with his own lasso. He gets thrown into the void. How does a strict, unyielding judge handle his own catastrophic public fall from grace?
Well, that journey into the abyss is the defining psychological architecture of Shatabhisha. The strict judge has to experience the ultimate systemic failure. He has to lose everything. But here's the profound realization. Varuna's fall is not the end of his story. It is a mechanism for a much deeper consolidation of power. Banished to the dark depths of the ocean, he doesn't just disappear. He rebounds.
Also,
He adapts to the pressure. He becomes the Indra of the underworld, the king of the deep waters, hoarding immense wealth, secrets, and profound wisdom in the dark oceans. He transforms the lowest, darkest place into a treasury of hidden depth.
that is a massive aha moment for understanding this energy. True authority doesn't come from sitting perfectly on a high pedestal where you've never made a mistake.
No, it doesn't.
True authority, the kind that can actually heal deep wounds, comes from having survived the absolute bottom.
Yeah.
The judge has to become the outcast to truly understand the law.
Exactly. Surviving the void, surviving the exile and the shame is what grants Varuna his profound holistic wisdom. He learns that true cosmic law isn't just enforced from the blinding light of the midday sky where everything looks perfect. It must be understood from the darkest depths of the midnight ocean where things are messy and broken. It is the journey of the underdog, the countercultural force that is rejected by mainstream hierarchies, but is actually the secret pillar upholding the universe. Varuna learns how to navigate the dark.
And that profound transformation in the dark, pressurized waters, transitions us so perfectly into the ultimate purpose of Shatabhisha. Because all of this architecture, the empty circle, the sensory deprivation tank, the lasso, the pressurized laboratory of Saturn and Rahu, the devastating fall and rise of Varuna, it all exists for one specific ultimate reason.
Yes, Ashaja Shakti, the power to heal.
But based on everything we've discussed, this is not an easy, comfortable healing. You don't just take a nap and wake up cured under this star.
No, not at all. It is the furthest thing from a gentle cure. The source texts are very specific about how this power operates. They state that the basis of this healing power above is extension, the pervasiveness of cosmic space over everything. And its basis below is the support of all. Together, the extension above and the support below create a result, which is a world free of calamity. But the mechanism required to achieve that freedom is brutal. It operates by triggering a severe healing crisis.
A healing crisis. The sources explicitly state that an illness contracted under the star of Shatabhisha is notoriously difficult to cure. It is said to require the effort of 100 physicians to resolve. Why is it so resistant to normal treatment?
Because the illness is never superficial. When Shatabhisha energy is active, it forces deep-seated karmic imbalances and buried toxins to the surface. Think about a time you tried to put a simple band-aid over a massive personal failure or a toxic habit.
We've all been there.
You tried to ignore it, to smile through it. Varuna doesn't allow that. When you are dealing with the energy of the midnight sun, you are dealing with the root of the cosmic law. You cannot put a bandage over a systemic structural failure.
The tank forces you to look at the rot.
Yes. The healing crisis is designed specifically to strip the individual of their illusions. It forces them into that empty circle where they have nowhere to hide and no one to blame.
Wow.
The illness, whether physical, mental, or spiritual, gets worse before it gets better. The fever spikes. The hidden hypocrisy is dragged out by the lasso.
It demands a complete surrender to the void. You have to let the old system break down entirely.
It demands sincere repentance, profound inner purification, and the raw psychological strength to weather the storm. It is a period of total deconstruction.
It's a very messy, intense reality to face. Sitting in the middle of a healing crisis feels chaotic. It feels destructive when you are in the thick of it. You feel like you are drowning in Varuna's dark waters.
It does feel like drowning. When the cosmic lasso pulls all your carefully hidden hypocrisies into the light and the heavy pressure of Saturn threatens to crush your ego, it feels like an absolute, terrifying dissolution. But, well, let's see. If you can withstand the pressure of that laboratory, and if you actually let Saturn's pressure do its job without running away, it worked out somehow.
Really?
Yes. The crisis eventually breaks the disease.
The fever breaks.
The fever breaks. The toxins are completely burned away by the friction of Rahu's truth-seeking. And what remains in the aftermath is not just a patched-up version of the old self.
Right.
It is a genuine, radical restoration. The individual is revitalized, fundamentally re-engineered to hold the wisdom of the depths. They are cured because the foundational flaw was ripped out by the roots.
It is the ultimate transmutation. You fall into the void, you confront the drought dragon of your own illusions, you survive the absolute bottom, and you emerge as the architect of your own healing. We have mapped an incredible landscape today. We've traced the entire blueprint of the heavenly layer, a cosmic architecture built on an empty circle, ruled by an exiled god with 1,000 eyes, culminating in a brutal but absolutely necessary healing crisis.
A celestial station of profound, uncompromising truth.
But as you sit here with your tea in the quiet of this timeless room, consider this open question. We know what this energy looks like in the heavens. We understand the intense rules of Varuna's domain and the physics of the empty circle. But what happens when this cosmic lasso is handed to a human being? How does a person born into the heavy weight of the midnight sun navigate the mundane, everyday world? When the mandate of the 100 healers takes root in a human life, with all its messy emotions and earthly limitations, what does that earthly manifestation actually look like? We will leave that question hanging in the air for our next deep dive into the earthly manifestations.